Part 22. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 211. Xiaotang was not alone, it was the cousin who brought Xiaotang down with her. Xiaotang's face was not very good, but she was forcibly pulled into a circle of young girls by her cousin. Xuanhuan was also there, and it seemed that she was going to introduce this makeup artist to the sisters around her. Xiaotang did not look around, but was uncomfortable and barely coped. "Oh my God, there is no most shameless, only more shameless, Xuanhuan, you are so shameless, are you really not afraid of messing up, just want to complete a fateful confrontation and completely cut off all their possibilities, so naive. Don't mention Jifei." Listening to the voice in the heart, the Qin family who knew all the truth looked back and forth in confusion, nervously waiting for the situation to develop. Xiaotang was unwilling to come down to see Luozhou, not entirely because she didn't want to cause trouble in an important occasion at someone else's house, but because she was completely disgusted by the truth. Now she didn't want to face Luozhou at all, so even if she knew that Luozhou was here, even if she might have been seen, she didn't want to face him, but he didn't let her go and forced her to come down. "Luozhou, who are you looking at? Xuanhuan or that little cousin?" Qi Li asked curiously. After all, they were originally arguing with Jifei and Qin Xian because of Luozhou, but it seemed that they were interrupted because they saw someone. According to Luozhou's temper, this was too strange. "Hey? That makeup artist suddenly," Hanziu beside Qi Li spoke. Because of the surprise, she forgot to pretend to be a little white flower for a while. Qi Li should have warned her, after all, he really didn't like Baiyu Egwang's stand-in who was as opinionated as Baiyu Egwang. As a result, Jifei became curious after hearing the words and looked at Hanziu. "Do you know her too?" Hanziu ignored the boss's warning when he heard that his idol was talking to him. "Yes, she was in that hotel at the last class reunion. I met her in the bathroom. Some of her cosmetics had your signature on them, so we talked to her. She seemed to have received an order that day and worked as a makeup artist there." Hanziu really spoke cracklingly, very lively, and quickly explained the matter clearly. Because Xiaotang had not looked over, Luozhou did not know how to react for a while, but when he heard Hanziu's words, he was stunned and dared not say, "She was there at that time." Then his brows knitted. Oh, I guess I started to wonder if her identity was discovered that day." "What a coincidence," Jingyan frowned. "Is she a makeup artist familiar to everyone in the circle? Bai Zioxi has been away from the country for a long time, so she is not sure." Senting shook her head. "I haven't heard of her." Luofei looked at Jifei and said, "There is your autograph. It seems that she is your fan? You just said that you know her too. So you know her." The police are the police, very sharp. When Luofei said this, Luozhou immediately looked at Jifei. "You know her too." He was a little scared of Jifei, and he always felt that being related to her must not be a good thing. But Jifei glanced at him, and that look made Luozhou's back suddenly cold. "I always feel that Jifei's eyes are very dirty." Yes, Jifei did scold him, because she just realized something. "This Sun Zier said he likes Xiaotang, I really don't believe it. He is a scumbag in his bones, and he has no conscience." "Oh, I know him. Xiaotang was in my and Qin Chao's makeup artist team for 2 months on the variety show I was on before." "What a coincidence," Jifei said with a smile. Qin Xian was stunned, and then he realized it, looking at Luozhou in disbelief. Luozhou looked surprised and absent-minded. He still had the face to be surprised. He didn't even know that Xiaotang had worked with me for 2 months. Even if he didn't like gossip, our show was so popular, and we lived together. Could it be that Xiaotang didn't mention it? Yes, he mentioned it, but he didn't listen to it at all. How can he not care about his girlfriend? He doesn't want to care about her career at all. Now, the Qin family who eavesdropped on the inner voice also reacted. Qin Chao and Qin Rong were particularly speechless. Yes, the people around them would definitely know who they were working for. After all, the show was so popular, but Luo Zhou didn't know. Because it was too absurd, no one had thought of this matter for a while. Now thinking about it, the word speechless is not enough to express their speechlessness. Seeing Luo Zhou's expression that he hadn't woken up to how hateful he was, Ji Fei got angry. Just opened her mouth. Xiao Tang is a good person, with strong skills, hard-working and not afraid of hardship, but his fortune and luck with men are not good. What do you mean? Bai Zioxi responded immediately. It turned out that human nature is gossiping. Luo Zhou couldn't help but look over, his eyes were somewhat probing and defensive, as if he was wondering if Xiao Tang was saying bad things about him behind his back. In fact, he couldn't stand the fact that he had to support him, but he had to endure it because he knew his identity, but he couldn't help complaining outside. He was afraid to agree with what Ji Fei and Qin Xian had said before to mock him. And Ji Fei had already started talking in a tone of sharing gossip, and the attention of the whole table was attracted by her. She borrowed money from her master before when we were working together. The reason was that her boyfriend had a car accident with a luxury car owner. As a result, her boyfriend had a bad temper and escalated the original conflict, causing her to be in debt of tens of thousands. She didn't have much savings, so she had to borrow money from her master to save the day. After that, she took orders and paid the debts day and night, and she was so tired that she almost fainted in front of our production team. As soon as these words came out, Luo Zhou's pupils trembled, as if he had just dug out such a small matter from his long-lost memory. He had a temper like a young master, so conflicts were conflicts. Although Xiao Tang paid the compensation later, he thought Xiao Tang was rich, but he didn't bother to calculate how much money he had spent at home and how much money Xiao Tang could squander according to his salary. Ah! Her boyfriend is so irresponsible, Bai Zioxi frowned. Senting, he can only fight and be brave, and he is irresponsible. This kind of man is the worst. Let your girlfriend bear this expense, you said with disgust. This Xiao Tang is in love, right? He doesn't even want to break up, Jingyan said with a smile. And every time they said something, Luo Zhou's face darkened, his lips trembled, and his scalp numbed. He probably didn't expect that a trivial matter of his would become such an evaluation in the mouths of others. Luo Fei and Qi Li were both stunned. They didn't know why they always felt a little familiar. Because Luo Zhou was angry after the conflict, he met with Qi Li and Luo Fei to complain that the man driving the luxury car was just a nouveau riche. Then Ji Fei said, her family encountered some problems recently and needed to borrow money. She couldn't get the money after a lot of effort, so she asked her boyfriend for help, but her boyfriend ran away. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 212. This bizarre thing naturally caused all kinds of disgusted exclamations. Ji Fei talked about it with great interest, and the others listened attentively. Luo Fei and Qi Li were restless and looked at Luo Zhou. Did Luo Zhou also talk about borrowing money just now? Is it such a coincidence? At this time, Luo Zhou had begun to panic. He didn't think Ji Fei was deliberately mocking him, but he suspected that Ji Fei's distant relationship had heard about borrowing money. Then, could it be true? I heard that she received a big order today and solved her urgent need. It turned out to be here. Ji Fei sighed and looked at Luo Zhou. Hey, did your sister-in-law find you specially? Did she watch my show and think my makeup is very good and recognized Xiao Tang's skills? But thank her very much. You can't cheat Luo Zhou and not Xian Yi. Ji Fei will not be partial to one. Luo Zhou's face suddenly became colorful and his expression changed. Yes, Xian Yi found him. Was he also there at the last class reunion? Is it such a coincidence? My mind is in a mess now, and I always feel something is wrong. I brought this down, maybe I want to introduce her to more connections. Her boyfriend is useless, so she can only make money by herself. Then I will go to meet her later. Bai Zioxi said enthusiastically, help the young lady to be busy so that she can forget the scumbag. Senting nodded, and seemed to be planning to meet her too. Luo Zhou's face was full of humiliation, and his fists were clenched. Luo Fei finally couldn't resist his curiosity, do you know her? Qi Li also felt it was too strange, your expression changes are too exaggerated, it can't be that Xiao Tang just happens to be your girlfriend. This made the whole table press the mute button directly. Everyone saw Luo Zhou's eyes change, but he didn't deny it. Gradually, everyone's eyes widened in shock. The scene was very awkward for a while, and the few people who had just complained about the scumbag looked at Ji Fei helplessly. Ji Fei quickly covered her mouth and almost laughed out loud. Then she pretended to be surprised. It's you? No wonder people say that Xiao Tang's boyfriend is a gigolo. It turns out that you are pretending to be poor to test her and then rely on her for support. This sentence is even more thunderous. Originally, it was a test game between friends. The people at this table must stand on the side of their friends. But now that both sides know each other, the feeling is really completely different. Everyone looked at Luo Zhou with disapproval. Luo Zhou's face was already livid, but he still didn't say a word, just looking at Xiao Tang in the distance. The atmosphere was too weird. Jingyan coughed and quickly changed the subject. No way, what is Xianyi doing? Does she know Xiao Tang too? The topic change failed. The atmosphere at the table became even more awkward. After all, Bai Zioxi is the only one who has not guessed that Xianyi and Luo Zhou had a relationship. Yu knew the key to this information, and he didn't care about brotherhood anymore, so he shared it with Bai Zioxi directly. Bai Zioxi was so shocked that he almost cried out. So, was Xiao Tang brought here for the purpose of recommendation? Senting was suspicious calmly. After all, this kind of thing is common in wealthy families. It's just that they didn't expect their friends to be such ulterior motives. It's just that it's too coincidental now, so they have to doubt it. Before everyone could be surprised, a group of people over there had already brought Xiao Tang here. What are they doing? Everyone at the same table looked at them in surprise. In this tense atmosphere, someone said something. Luo Zhou, are you sure Xiao Tang knows who you are? If you guess wrong, you will be exposed when you meet later. Luo Zhou kept looking at Xiao Tang, but Xiao Tang kept his head down and didn't look at him. Originally, Luo Zhou was still speculating whether Xiao Tang came here on purpose since he knew his identity, to ask him to get back together and give them a chance to meet. But after hearing this, Luo Zhou's heart suddenly became empty, as if he had suddenly fallen from a 100-meter cliff. A fear came over him, but before he could react, Xiao Tang had already looked up, and in an instant, the two of them were staring at each other. Luo Zhou felt his throat blocked, and he didn't dare to look away for a moment. But Xiao Tang had already looked away directly. Everyone also looked back between the two of them, nervous and excited, whispering. Did you see it? Not surprised. It seems that you did know it in advance. I thought there would be a commotion. Are you going to watch the fun? While they were whispering, people arrived. Luo Zhou's eyes were almost burning as he looked at Xiao Tang, because Xiao Tang didn't even look at him, and he became anxious, even angry. He wanted to ask Xiao Tang what was going on with the money borrowing. But why didn't he look at him, why didn't he pay attention to him, and even came to their house? He saw it but still turned a blind eye. Was he making a fuss with him, or was he trying to play hard to get? Luo Zhou felt that he was about to die of annoyance. And this annoyance came from the deepest anxiety in his heart, an anxiety that he dared not face. Ji Fei looked at Xianyi standing in the front, and couldn't understand the pervert's train of thought. So they are here to let Xiao Tang and Luo Zhou meet, but according to Xiao Tang's reaction, they probably won't recognize each other. Just thinking about it, Xianyi's first person to speak to was her. Jifei, you just happened to be here, and I heard that this makeup teacher Tang Zhang had served you before, so let's ask together. Jifei? Xiao Tang had already calmed down by now, and reluctantly greeted Jifei with a smile. Hello, Teacher Ji. There was still some uneasiness and embarrassment in his eyes. After all, he felt that such a statement was a bit of a fraternity. Why did Xianyi take the initiative to tell her sister group that Xiao Tang was my makeup artist? After mentioning it, Xiao Tang also admitted it, and a group of people came to me to verify it. Does this mean that she doesn't believe it? What the hell? Jifei immediately smiled and said, Xiao Tang, you are here too. I was wondering why Xianyi put on so well today. Everyone, huh? Did they just hear something wrong, saying that the makeup was so good? Jifei's expression was so intimidating that even Xianyi thought she had heard it wrong. The headache of the Qin family almost spit out the wine. There was a big drama here, and it was not easy for Qin's father and mother to come over to watch, but the younger generation didn't care, and they all raised their glasses to join in the fun. Xianyi ignored the obvious threatening look from Luozhou and turned to the sisters and said, I told you, it's great value for money. The sisters had different expressions. I still think the charge is unreasonable. Although we are rich, we are not stupid. Madam Qin, how much did she charge for your makeup? The cousin suddenly asked. One sentence instantly changed Xiao Tang's face. Jifei was also confused by this development and immediately checked the system. OMG, my cotton pants and my jacket, my brain has turned into a small date. Your plan really made me mentally shrink. Qin family, what? Just asking a price, how come it shrinks? As an assistant makeup artist, you can get more than 10,000 for one episode of the show. It turns out that Xianyi has told her cousin about Xiao Tang's identity. Her cousin loves Luozhou, so how could she allow their relationship to continue? She wants to force the two to break up more strongly than Xianyi naturally. She wants to find a way to expose Xiao Tang in front of people and damage her reputation and lose face, so she is playing a double act here. It was obviously me who used the high price of 200,000 yuan to seize Xiao Tang's embarrassment and force her to come here as a makeup artist. As a result, I want to use this high price to deal with Xiao Tang now, because once I quote a normal price, compared with theirs this time, everyone will think that Xiao Tang is asking for too much and is cheating them, a rich man, as if they are fools. She is a person who has no professional ethics for money. If she makes a mistake in public like this, the Luo family will definitely not accept such a person. Qin family, no wonder they always want Xiao Tang to come down. This is still a chain of tricks. Qin Xian's mouth twitched. To be honest, if this kind of scheme is used to help Brother Luo stabilize the business territory, maybe their main purpose is to make Xiao Tang lose face in front of the Luo family, but if they succeed, Xiao Tang will be completely famous in the makeup artist industry. Once it is spread, Xiao Tang will not be able to serve powerful women in the future, no matter how good her skills are, and it may even affect female stars in the entertainment industry. This will completely block Xiao Tang's career future. Too vicious. Qin family, vicious, not just ordinary vicious, simply don't treat others as human beings. What did Xiao Tang do wrong? She is obviously a victim. Qin Xian also sneered. He looked at Jifei with some worry, but saw his wife suddenly raised the corner of her mouth. Don't blame me, if you want to use me to cheat people, I will bite you. Qin Xian, my wife is so cute. If you don't know, can you help me ask? The cousin was obviously impatient, waiting for Jifei to be dazed, and wanted to solve the problem quickly. Xiao Tang's face was already quite bad. She had long understood what was going on, but she had no way, because the charge was real. At this moment, she should have asked Luozhou for help, but she didn't, and she didn't even think of this man. Luozhou had been looking at Xiao Tang. Although he didn't know the whole picture, he felt that Xiao Tang was in trouble. He thought Xiao Tang would seek his help, even if it was a look of help, he would take the initiative to give Xiao Tang a step. But Xiao Tang never gave him a look from beginning to end. "Oh, I remember, 300,000 per show." This sentence silenced everyone. Xiao Tang looked at Ji Fei in astonishment, only to see Ji Fei raised her eyebrows and smiled at her. The sisters were all in a trance. Did they misunderstand? Is the fee really that high now? So, 200,000 is normal here. Is it because my makeup artist charges too low? The others at the same table had no idea, and didn't even understand the meaning of this conversation. "How is it possible?" the cousin almost screamed, not daring to say, "Did you remember it wrong? How could it be 300,000? It's obviously." Xianyi immediately grabbed the cousin and stopped her from talking nonsense, but her face was uncontrollably ugly. She looked at Ji Fei, and she never expected to get this answer, which made her uncertain. The movement here has attracted the attention of many guests around. "What? This charge is normal," Ji Fei said in surprise. "Are you charging 200,000 for makeup today?" Ji Fei's voice also got louder. "Xiao Tang, why did you lower the price? Did you give them a discount? Or are they acquaintances so you give them a discount? Oh, it's really unnecessary. They are rich and don't need this. Isn't it insulting to give them a discount? Look, you made them suspicious and asked me about the normal charging standard. Rich people don't like to be cheated, but they don't like to be looked down upon even more." As soon as this was said, the people of the Luo family reacted first. "What are you talking about? What are you talking about? The Luo family still needs a makeup artist to give them a discount. Who is this insulting? Who is not a wealthy family? Which unworthy descendant did this? Isn't this a disgrace?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After The Wife of a Wealthy Family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 213. Xuanyi reacted, feeling the questioning looks coming from all directions, and almost couldn't keep up the facade. Now she was sure that Ji Fei said such embarrassing words just to avoid dealing with her. She was a little aggrieved. Why was Ji Fei always having trouble with her? Obviously, according to Qin Xian's relationship with them, Ji Fei should be relatively close to them, so how could he help outsiders deceive her? What is Xuanyi's look like, as if he is blaming me? Oh my god, why is her face so big? Could it be that if I don't cooperate with her to bully others, she still blames me? Ji Fei had goosebumps all over her body. Because the discussion suddenly became louder, Luo Chen naturally came over to deal with it immediately, smiling and asking what happened. Nothing, just introduce a makeup artist to the sisters. Xuanyi could only force a smile and said, "Probably Ji Fei is a star, so the fee is higher than us. We discussed it." Luo Cheng smiled and said to Xiao Tang, "Ms. Tang has worked hard today. You can taste the wine here as you like. If you like it, tell us back and we will give it to you." Luo Cheng was generous and polite, but Xiao Tang looked at him rather strangely. Xiao Tang only felt a little sympathy for others, but considering Luo Cheng's status and power, she had no right to sympathize with others. "You're welcome, thank you," Xiao Tang responded politely, walking down the steps given by Luo Cheng, changing the atmosphere here to a normal atmosphere. She didn't want to leave hidden dangers for herself because of one or two scum destroying other people's homes. Xiao Tang didn't plan to stay any longer. She knew these people had bad intentions and she would definitely not be a target, so she planned to go back to the dressing room and wait until the banquet was over. However, Xiao Tang still looked at Ji Fei very gratefully and said thank you invisibly with her eyes. Even though there was her boyfriend Ludojo 2 people away, she did not glance over there with her peripheral vision. This feeling of being completely ignored made Ludojo go crazy. After all, Xiao Tang had always been around him in the past, and his heart and eyes were all about him. How could he be ignored like this? His heart felt as if it was being grabbed and suffocated. Seeing Xiao Tang planning to leave, Ludojo finally broke out, "Where else are you going? Sit here." As soon as he said this, everyone around him looked over. Is this the beginning? The attribute of mindless rage and domineering is online. I am digging my toes into the ground in embarrassment. Please, didn't you realize that you didn't mention him by name? The Qin family, who originally didn't think there was a problem, almost laughed out loud when they heard Ji Fei's narration. The people at the same table naturally knew who Ludojo was talking about, but the group of sisters just didn't know. When they heard this, they looked at each other. Who are you talking to? Xiao Tang might have wanted to pretend he didn't hear it and wanted to leave, but he heard Ludojo shouting, "Stop, Tang Zhang, I asked you to come over, didn't you hear me? It's begun, and the names are being called." It seems that Ludojo really planned to introduce his girlfriend to everyone before, so he doesn't care about making the relationship public now. However, it can be seen from Xiao Tang's performance that Xiao Tang she didn't want others to know that she was involved with Xiao Luo, so she kept running away. It's a pity that when you encounter such a villain, you can't run away. As expected, Xiao Tang had no choice but to turn around and said stiffly, "Second young master Luo, I still have some work to do here. If there is any work that needs to be done, we can discuss it privately later." Although the excuse is very blunt, it can still be used as a cover-up. The speculation on the relationship between the two cannot continue. But Ludojo felt as if he was rejected and became angry, especially in front of so many people. His girlfriend didn't give him face, which was a slap in his face. What kind of job is she talking about? Is her job just to put makeup on the women in his family? Ludojo felt very embarrassed. Xiao Tang usually worked as a makeup artist outside, but how could he be in front of his house? She was his girlfriend and the person he was going to marry in the future. In Ludojo's original plan, after Xiao Tang married him, she would naturally become a rich wife. Whatever she wanted to do in the future, she was also destined to be a boss investment, so it was impossible for her to go out to serve others. Now that he appears in this capacity in front of so many acquaintances, wouldn't he become the talk of others in the future? What kind of job? Don't be embarrassed, come here, Ludojo blurted out as his brain heated up. Is he, finally crazy? Qin Xian also frowned and looked at Ludojo as if he was mentally retarded. The expression on Xiao Tang's face froze almost instantly, as if he didn't recognize him, and he looked at Ludojo with extremely unfamiliar eyes. When Ludojo saw Xiao Tang's expression, he immediately regretted it, but a man with a good face could not take back his words. He could only keep a stiff face and habitually waited for Xiao Tang to soften and obey him. Anyway, Xiao Tang loved him very much and couldn't live without him. He would do anything to pamper him. Even if sometimes he felt that he was at fault, Xiao Tang would always indulge him. So it's okay. Haha, is it embarrassing? What qualifications does second young master Ludo have to say such a thing? Xiao Tang suddenly whispered. Xiao Tang finally couldn't bear it anymore. Yes, if you still endure this, you are really a doormat. Ludo Yi was stunned and looked at Xiao Tang in astonishment. I don't know if I'm panicked or scared. Ludojo suddenly said, I am your boyfriend, why am I not qualified? As soon as the voice fell, the group of sisters who had not yet left gasped. One by one, they widened their eyes, looked at Ludojo, then looked at Xiao Tang, and finally the cousin. They had all heard that Xianyi intended to match the cousin with Ludojo, but they didn't expect Ludojo to have a girlfriend, who was a makeup artist they hired. Ah, this is a big news. Even the people at the same table didn't expect that the relationship between the two would be confessed in this situation. Xiao Tang was stunned, and all kinds of eyes came from all around, making her stand uneasy. Have you ever thought that one day, in the circle of boyfriends, her boyfriend will proudly introduce her identity? But when this scene came, Xiao Tang felt it was very absurd. Xiao Tang smiled contemptuously and said, "Since you are my boyfriend, you are even less qualified, because I have supported you for 2 years with this craft. Others say it's embarrassing, but you can't say it. Damn, brave, give Xiao Tang a thumbs up." This sentence made the whole table and the sisters standing around stunned. The 3 Qin brothers and sisters who came to join in the fun almost lost their wine. Is this scene going to be a quarrel? Because the voice was not loud, no one else could hear anything. But this was enough to humiliate Luo Zhou. Ji Fei and Qin Xian thought that according to Luo Zhou's temper, he would be furious, but he just stared at Xiao Tang blankly. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 214. What's going on? Did I hear it wrong? She's supporting the second young master. If anyone is supporting someone, it should be the second young master Luo who should support her. Are they really boyfriend and girlfriend? Because of Luo Zhou's lack of reaction, everyone started to discuss. What's going on? A paper tiger with a strong exterior but a weak interior. Qin Xian thought that this was probably the first time that Xiao Tang treated him with this attitude during their relationship, so Luo Zhou was a little irritated. Xiao Tang looked at Luo Zhou coldly, and Luo Zhou seemed unable to face such a cold look, and didn't know what to say for a moment. And at this moment, the cousin who had been looking at the situation angrily suddenly moved. She came to Xiao Tang and got very close to him. "Miss Tang, are you Luo Zhou's girlfriend? Why didn't you tell us in advance? Suddenly so fake, showing courtesy for no reason, either a traitor or a thief, what is she doing?" There's nothing to say because they were too close, exceeding the social distance. Xiao Tang instinctively stepped aside. Luo Zhou suddenly woke up and stared at Xiao Tang. Xiao Tang didn't want to quarrel on the spot and return the insult. As long as Luo Zhou didn't go crazy, she still wanted to leave and talk about the breakup. As a result, the cousin took another step closer. Such an important thing must be said. As she said that, she put on a coquettish look and pretended to lean on Xiao Tang. Oh no, there is a wine glass tower next to them. There are 2 steps going down next to their seats. There is an 8-story wine glass tower next to them, and Xiao Tang is standing on the edge. Originally, because of the cousin's approach, she has already stepped on the edge of the steps. If someone leans on her like this again, she will lose her balance and stumble down. This scene is simply unbearable to imagine. Be careful. The moment Ji Fei found out her cousin's plan, she was sitting in the middle, but it was too late to stop it, so she could only shout. Even Qin Xian, who was sitting outside, was some distance away from Xiao Tang. I can only pray that Xiao Tang's chassis is stable enough, but Xiao Tang seems to be wearing high heels. The next second, he turned his head to look, and saw only a figure shaking, followed by the sound of wine glasses breaking and women screaming, which disturbed many guests. "Cousin," Xianyi shouted in disbelief. Then he looked fiercely at Xiao Tang, who was safe and sound. Xiao Tang was also confused, and she could only turn her head to look at the benefactor who pulled her away. "Damn, I thought it was a hero saving a beauty, but it turned out to be you, Qin Xiao. How did you suddenly appear?" "Qin Xiao, how can this not be considered a hero?" It was all because of Ji Fei's voice. The three siblings stood by and watched the show. When they saw Xiao Tang was really about to be leaned down, they naturally pulled her back. Unexpectedly, the cousin lost her center of gravity and got into trouble. "Everyone, don't get close." Luo Cheng heard the noise and hurried over to deal with it. In the debris and wine on the ground, the cousin cried in embarrassment. Fortunately, she fell out and knocked open the wine glass tower. If she fell into the debris, she would definitely be injured. Now she was just soaked by the wine. But this is embarrassing enough. "Xianyi, take my cousin to deal with it," Luo Cheng said hurriedly. Xianyi had no choice but to leave with the reckless cousin. "What were you doing just now? Are you crazy?" Xianyi scolded in a low voice. I heard my cousin say that you want to find a way to embarrass her at this banquet, so that the Luo family will force them to clean up the relationship. Tisk, so you don't need to bother at all." The cousin immediately understood that Xianyi had already prepared a plan. When they left, the sister group naturally had to disperse. Xiao Tang had just thanked Qin Chao when Luo Zhou came to her side, grabbed Xiao Tang's wrist, and pulled Xiao Tang away from Qin Chao. He just found out that Xiao Tang had worked with Qin Chao for 2 months, and now Qin Chao was the hero who saved the beauty, which was really disgusting. But when he caught Xiao Tang wanted to break free. After Luo Cheng arranged the situation here, he saw that his brother was acting stupid again, and hurried forward and said, "Zhou, why are you pulling Miss Tang?" Luo Zhou stared at Xiao Tang angrily, and then said to his eldest brother, "She is my girlfriend, can't I pull her to my table to recognize her friends?" Luo Chen was shocked. "Girlfriend?" Yes, Luo Zhou seemed to want to pull Xiao Tang to recognize her in front of his eldest brother. But Xiao Tang didn't want to cooperate at all. Luo Chen was too lazy to care about the children's love entanglements, and said directly, "Then treat them well, don't cause any more trouble, and take your girlfriend to meet your parents after the wine tasting." After that, Luo Cheng smiled apologetically at everyone and went back to socializing. Xiao Tang couldn't argue with Luo Zhou in public, so she was dragged to their table. The whole table was quiet. Although none of them were gossipy, they all looked like they were waiting to see the show. The three siblings of the Qin family were at the small bar nearby, listening attentively. Luo Zhou pulled Xiao Tang to sit down, and was quiet for a while, as if he was also settling down the things that had just happened. But Xiao Tang was already impatient. She always felt uncomfortable with the current Luo Shao. "Can you let me go? I'm still working." Luo Zhou's temper immediately came up. "Are you deliberately trying to confront me now? Even if you are throwing a tantrum, there should be a limit." "No hope. Qin Xian, no hope." The three siblings of the Qin family, completely hopeless. The Qin family's parents, who could not hear the conversation but only heard their inner voices, "What? Why is there no hope?" Xiao Tang suddenly turned his head and looked directly at Luo Zhou and said, "I signed a contract of 200,000 yuan with your sister-in-law. I have to do the makeup for the event today, but I don't have time to drink and chat here." Luo Zhou was finally not stupid enough to ask if it was a scam. "Did you know my identity before?" Luo Zhou really couldn't tell. In his eyes, the situation was too complicated, so he simply asked directly. "I know. Your good sister-in-law hired me to work on the day of your class reunion." "I saw you," Luo Shao Xiao Tang sneered. Luo Zhou didn't hear the yin and yang of the word sister-in-law, but asked in a daze, "Then why didn't you ask me, didn't get angry with me, but borrowed money from me?" Xiao Tang sneered and said, "I didn't want to borrow money from you before our relationship was clear, but I really couldn't borrow more money, so I asked you. I thought that even if you cheated me again, you still had feelings for me. When I really encountered difficulties, you would not insist on your scam and choose to help me, but you didn't." Luo Zhou's face turned pale. Thinking of Xiao Tang's expression when he rejected her, his heart seemed to be blocked. But he didn't mean to do that, and there was indeed nothing when he checked at that time. That may be a misunderstanding. I can give it to you now, so you don't have to work. It's too late. I've already received my salary and the money is enough. I don't need your help, and I don't need you anymore, Xiao Tang suddenly said. Luo Zhou was stunned. What do you mean? Xiao Tang, you asked me why I didn't show my cards, because I was waiting for you to confess to me. That was my last chance for you. The last chance, what I planned to say on my birthday. I asked you what you meant by saying this. Luo Zhou seemed unable to face reality and was instantly furious. I wanted to say it privately. Since the person who was in love with me has never existed, then I am equivalent to not being in love, so, Luo Shao, don't say you are my boyfriend anymore, you are not. Xiao Tang looked at Luo Zhou unwaveringly, making Luo Zhou feel flustered. What do you mean by non-existent? I am still me. Don't I have money? You shouldn't. You don't think that after you pretended to be poor and lied to me for 2 years, I would be overjoyed and think that my hard work has paid off after I know you are a super rich second generation? Xiao Tang asked. Xiao Tang's words were too frank, and finally Luo Zhou's face changed drastically. He seemed to have a premonition that something was about to go off track and far away from his expectations, so his voice almost trembled as he said, wouldn't it be good to let you live a better life? Second young master Luo, I lack love, but the love you give me is too fake, I can't digest it. I want to live a better life, but not with you. So, I will leave your world, and please don't bother me anymore. After speaking, Xiao Tang took out the bracelet directly from the bag on his back and put it on the table. I don't deserve this, I'll give it back to you. Seeing the familiar bracelet, Sen Ting was the first to react. Because he was too surprised, he couldn't stop talking. This is. Jing Yan on the side quickly pulled Sen Ting, fearing that what she said would make things worse. After all, he had seen Sen Ting's works, so he naturally recognized that this was a so-called gift. Jing Yan couldn't help but be speechless to Luo Zhou. Since he treated her as a gift, why did he still look reluctant to break up? And just when Xiao Tang put down the bracelet and was about to get up, someone shouted from the stairs. Oh, my cousin's necklace was stolen. Where's the makeup artist? Didn't she let her go? After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yu. Chapter 215. Because it happened before, everyone present knew who the makeup artist was, and their eyes were focused on this side at once. The sister group that just left had gone out to gossip, so some people already knew that the makeup artist was Luo Xiao's girlfriend outside. But at this moment, there was a sudden incident of stealing a necklace, and it was pointed at the makeup artist. Everyone did not look at Xiao Tang with a thief's eyes, but instead looked at Xiao Tang with a good show. Who doesn't want to watch the fun and not mind the big things? Luo Xiao's girlfriend stole the necklace of Luo Dashao's wife. This melon is interesting. Seeing that the cousin who had changed her clothes rushed directly towards Xiao Tang, Xuanhuan, who appeared behind, hurriedly said, "Cousin, don't be impulsive, it may not be Miss Tang who took it." This further confirmed a certain speculation. Luo Cheng's face was full of impatience at this time. What happened today? It was really weird. With so many things, even he couldn't control his temper. What happened? Xuanhuan went downstairs with a wronged look on her face and said to Luo Cheng, "It was Luo Zhou's birthday gift that year. You know the value of that necklace, I just showed it to Miss Tang and wanted her to help me choose a necklace that fits the dress. As a result, when I went back to help my cousin change clothes, I found that the necklace was missing." Luo Cheng stepped forward and whispered, "She is the girlfriend of the second brother. How could she steal things?" In Luo Cheng's opinion, the second brother's girlfriend would not do such a thing. But, she didn't seem to know that the second brother was the second young master of the Luo family before. She seemed to be short of money during this period. I wonder if she went astray for a while. Xianyi said in embarrassment, "It's all my fault. I should have suppressed my cousin and dealt with it privately." Luo Cheng always felt very strange. He felt it was inexplicable from the beginning that the makeup artist Xianyi found was the second brother's girlfriend. Did Xianyi know that she was the second brother's girlfriend in advance? But it was not easy to say anything at this moment. After all, the matter had exploded. When Xiao Tang heard that sentence, he froze, his face was full of confusion and shock. My desk mate just heard about the breakup, and now he looked at each other in surprise. Luo Zhou was still staring at the bracelet blankly at first, but when he heard those words and saw his cousin rushing over aggressively, he immediately stood up and grabbed Xiao Tang and said, "It's okay, don't be afraid." Xiao Tang came back to his senses, just glanced at Luo Zhou, and directly pulled his wrist away. "I didn't do anything, what am I afraid of?" Luo Zhou felt a pain in his heart and became even more flustered, as if he wanted to catch the sand flowing through his hands. He couldn't help but say, "It was wrong for me to pretend to be poor and lie to you in the past, but now is not the time for you to get angry with me, leave it to me." Xiao Tang almost laughed out of anger. She suddenly looked at Luo Zhou, her eyes full of confusion. "What?" Luo Zhou felt uncomfortable being looked at. Xiao Tang just shook her head, with a scornful smile on her lips. What she had just said was just a fart, and someone just ignored it as insignificant, and thought she was getting angry. Has she been blind for the past 2 years? What on earth do you like about him? It turns out that when you peel off the filter you added to him, he is so disgusting. Xiao Tang was too lazy to look at him. She glanced over and met Ji Fei's eyes. Ji Fei anxiously winked at her. Unfortunately, she couldn't hear Ji Fei's voice, so she naturally couldn't respond. "Ah, Xiao Tang, why don't you check the interlayer of your bag? Xianyi showed off to you before and took advantage of you turning around to secretly hide the necklace in your bag." The Qin family was stunned when they heard it. They said, how could there be such a low-level slander? It turned out to be a trap set up long ago, just waiting to catch the thief and take the stolen goods. Qin Xian, no wonder Ji Fei made a move just now, and his body looked like he was about to rush out. I guess his first reaction was to grab the bag and save people. But in the public eye, it's useless to do anything. In this situation, even Qin Xian couldn't help but frown slightly. But what is even more puzzling to Qin Xian is why Xianyi did this. Isn't she afraid that the situation will be out of control and her affairs will be exposed? But after thinking carefully, Xianyi is indeed not afraid. After all, she and Luo Zhou were in an underground relationship at the beginning and have never publicly admitted it. Even if the people who know about it are their own people, it is impossible for them to jump out and testify against their friends. Luo Zhou himself will not expose such things. Even if Xiao Tang said it, there is no evidence. After all, the necklace was also given as a birthday gift after passing the Minglu. And Xianyi's design of the scene is probably the same as the design of her cousin just now. But this is equivalent to ruining the wine tasting event carefully prepared by the Luo family. "Ah, I really saw a ghost." Xianyi actually planned to ruin this wine tasting event at the cost of ruining it, so as to take this opportunity to completely cut off the possibility of Xiao Tang and Luo Zhou, unlike the previous makeup artist charging a small fight that would only make people unhappy. If this wine tasting event is ruined, even if Luo Zhou must be with Xiao Tang according to his temper, he will definitely be absolutely hindered. It's really, leaving no room for maneuver. I really can't help but ask a soul-searching question again. You tried so hard to stop them from being together, why did you break up in the first place? Qin Xian frowned, his eyes full of disgust. He never knew Xianyi was such a contradictory person. He was willing to destroy everything that brother Luo had worked hard to prepare for his own selfish desires. It seems that even if you have known each other for many years, you really can't know a person's heart. The Qin family was also amazed at Xianyi's sinister intentions when they heard this. Before, the Luo couple boasted that they had married a virtuous and excellent daughter-in-law who helped her husband's career. I seem to have heard that someone compared the daughters-in-law of their two families and said that Qin Xian of his family married a wicked daughter-in-law. Just now, the Luo family couple couldn't help asking why Fei wanted to be an artist, and their words showed their disapproval of the rich wife's job as an artist. If the truth is exposed later, I really want to ask, who is the one who married a wicked daughter-in-law now? So Fei and Qin Xian should be more powerful, they must be exposed. But before Fei could think of a solution, the cousin rushed over and pointed at Xiaotang without saying a word. Did you steal my cousin's necklace? I didn't, Xiaotang said firmly. But that dressing room, except for you, an outsider, is for our family members to enter and exit, and with our status, no one would covet that necklace, so only you are suspected. You let me check the bag, the cousin said, and was about to grab the bag. Stop! Luo Zhou directly stopped and pushed the cousin away and said, she is my girlfriend, what does she need to steal the necklace? She did a human thing, but did he forget that he was just dumped? He was not going to make up for it like this, so that he would not be dumped later. Naturally, as soon as Luo Zhou said this, the relationship between the two was immediately exposed, and the Luo family couple hurried over to ask about the situation. Luo Zhou really protected Xiaotang, making the cousin jealous and anxious. Xianyi came over at this time and patted her on the back. Although he didn't say anything, he gave her invisible support. Fei and Qin Xian looked carefully. Sure enough, they didn't know when Xianyi was wearing the necklace on her neck that was deliberately showing off in front of Xiaotang. It's also unlucky, I'm afraid it happened when we were about to leave, so we didn't see it, otherwise, this conspiracy would have been killed long ago. Qin Xian was suddenly stunned, and took out his mobile phone secretly with some uncertainty. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After The Wife of a Wealthy Family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 216. At this time, everyone has been talking about it. And they already know that the lost item was a birthday gift that Luo Zhou once gave to his eldest sister-in-law, which was worth millions. When the necklace was mentioned, Xiaotang and Luo Zhou's faces were very ugly. With Xianyi's support, the cousin immediately said, if you are not guilty, why don't you let me see the bag? I think there must be something wrong with you. You don't understand what people say. I said, she is my girlfriend. What does she want? Can't I give it to her? Does she need to steal the necklace? Luo Zhou insisted on defending. Xiaotang also said, why do you suspect me because you lost something? Why should I start to prove myself because of your words? It doesn't make sense. In fact, Xiaotang has begun to doubt and worry. After all, she has a deep understanding of Xianyi and her cousin's unfriendly attitude towards her. But at this moment, the cousin suddenly pointed at the bracelet on the table and said, ah, the same thing as my cousin's necklace. Without waiting for everyone to react, the cousin picked up the bracelet and said, sure enough, who is this? It's yours, right? Xiaotang looked at the bracelet with an ugly face. This is what I just returned to Luo Ershao. That's yours, the cousin said excitedly. I remember that the necklace Luo Zhou gave me also came with a bracelet. Is it this one? Xianyi suddenly said. After saying this, the scene was in an uproar. Countless voices gathered together in one sentence. What? The genuine product was given to the sister-in-law, and the gift was given to the girlfriend. It seems that Luo Ershao doesn't like his girlfriend. No wonder he has been hiding it at this time. The onlookers have not yet associated it with the more bizarre truth. They just thought that Luo Zhou looked down on his girlfriend, so he just took something to fool her. Xiaotang was like being slapped in the face. Even if she broke up with Ludojo, she didn't want to bring up this matter and quarrel with Ludojo. This was a humiliation for her. After all, she really treasured this bracelet. Ludojo's whole body froze. Ludojo, who didn't feel that he had done anything wrong, was now guilty and wished that time could go back. He was extremely anxious but didn't dare to look at Xiaotang. Instead, he stared at Xianyi and his cousin fiercely. Are you angry with Ludojo and want to confront him with my necklace? Then you can just say it. Xianyi pretended to be a good person and said. Stealing is stealing. I guess she was so angry that she felt that brother Ludojo didn't value her, so she stole the necklace in revenge, the cousin said immediately. After saying this, it seemed that even if Xiaotang was Ludojo's girlfriend, stealing things became excusable. You two shut up, Ludojo got angry directly, but was scolded by the Ludo family couple. How do you talk to your sister-in-law, Mr. Ludo defended. If it was really your girlfriend who took it, we won't pursue anything if she takes it out. Mrs. Ludo was already full of dislike for Xiaotang. The couple still knew their second son well. He must be guilty of being so angry now. They couldn't think of anything else that made Ludojo guilty, so they naturally thought that Xiaotang really stole something to make trouble with Ludojo. There was nothing wrong with boyfriends and girlfriends quarreling, but this thing was very unruly and ruined their wine tasting. Xiaotang's eyes were red. Mom and Dad, don't you believe it? While Ludojo was talking, his cousin suddenly rushed over, snatched Xiaotang's bag, turned it over quickly and searched for a while. Countless things fell out, and finally a beautiful necklace fell, with the same luster and material as the bracelet, which made the scene very quiet. Ludojo looked at the necklace in disbelief, and then looked at Xiaotang in a daze. Xiaotang stared at the necklace in a daze. Although he was mentally prepared, he still panicked for a moment. It's not me, someone framed me. At this point, she suddenly looked up at Xianyi. It's you. People around had already started talking, but because of Xiaotang's sudden identification, everyone pointed fingers at her. After all, no one would believe that Xianyi used her necklace to frame her. It was so outrageous. Xianyi also said aggrievedly, I don't blame you for stealing the necklace to make trouble with Ludojo, but you can't slander me just because you were exposed. Xiaotang didn't care. It's you put the things in my bag when I wasn't paying attention, and framed me, because you. The sudden turn of events had already made Ji-Fei confused, and when she heard the key point, she immediately became excited. Hurry up, just break the jar and kill them all, no one can have a good life. As a result, Xiaotang really stopped. She looked at Ludojo and suddenly said, she framed me, do you believe me? No, why are you letting men make choices at this time? Didn't you remove your love brain before? Everyone probably thinks that Xiaotang is begging her boyfriend to believe her. But Qin Xian doesn't think so. He thinks Xiaotang sees the situation clearly. She knows that if she says such a shocking relationship between uncle and sister-in-law, she must have evidence, otherwise she will be criticized to death, and everyone will think that she is making up stories by using the relationship between the necklace and the bracelet to get away with it. But how can she have evidence, unless Ludojo personally comes out to admit that he has such a relationship with his sister-in-law, so Xianyi may frame someone. But doing so is equivalent to completely breaking the harmony of the Ludo family. Ludojo is very likely not to do it. Xiaotang has long distrusted Ludojo, and she dare not gamble, not to mention that she can't prove this matter herself. The crime scene was in the dressing room, where there was no surveillance and there was almost no evidence. Even if Xiaotang insisted that she was wronged and framed, she might not be convicted, but she was guilty in the eyes of everyone. The simplest frame-up is also the most difficult to overcome. After recognizing all the realities, she desperately found that she could only pin her hopes on Ludojo. She was also flexible and asked Ludojo for help directly. That's why she asked this question. If Luo Zhou said he believed her, it would prove that Luo Zhou had doubts about his sister-in-law's behavior and could naturally help her get rid of the crime, but if Luo Zhou didn't believe her, she would have no need to say anything. However, Qin Xian felt that Xiao Tang might be disappointed. He lowered his head expressionlessly and operated the mobile phone in his hand. On the other side, Luo Zhou was stunned by Xiao Tang's question. He looked at Xianyi, and saw that Xianyi's eyes were red, and he looked at him with grievance, as if he wanted to say something but stopped. Luo Zhou really didn't know what the truth was, he just hated that his hidden things were exposed, so he was cruel to Xianyi. And at this moment, Xiao Tang pointed out that Xianyi was a criminal. How could this be possible? Why did Xianyi do this? How could the most unforgettable love object in the past immediately turn into a villain in his heart? So he instinctively tended to believe Xianyi. Naturally, he also absolutely believed in Xiao Tang. There might be some misunderstanding, such as something accidentally fell in. For example, the cousin did it on purpose. Yes, the cousin looked so suspicious. Did you do it? From the beginning, you were very surprised. How could you find the necklace so accurately? Did you put it there? You went into the dressing room, it must be you. Luo Zhou did not answer and directly chose the third way. Proved that he not only believed in his sister-in-law, but also believed in his girlfriend. But his answer not only made his cousin quarrel, but also Xiao Tang beside him sneered and said, "Then call the police, I am willing to find the police to prove my innocence." Everyone was in an uproar again. They didn't expect that the matter would become so big. Is he really innocent or is he just stubborn and refuses to admit it? Luo Fei coughed and was about to get up. After all, he was a policeman. He was working at the right time. He was also curious about this matter. But Xiao Tang's proposal was rejected. The Luo couple came out and said, "Why call the police? We won't pursue it. Anyway, the things have been found. Forget it. Luo Zhou, talk to your girlfriend." Luo Zhou hesitated for a moment and felt that it was not appropriate to bring such a family matter to the police station. Seeing that Luo Fei was about to stand up, he also pressed his shoulders. In the end, he turned to Xiao Tang in annoyance and said, "Forget it, I believe you anyway, don't make a fuss, we will talk to my parents later, and they will believe you too." Xiao Tang almost couldn't hold back his tears. "So, will everyone here believe that I'm innocent? Can you guarantee that I'll be the innocent one if this matter gets out?" Luo Zhou looked as if someone had pierced his fig leaf, and his face suddenly turned ugly. "Isn't it enough for me to believe you? I can guarantee that you'll have a worry-free life in the future. And if you keep making trouble, are you sure you can prove yourself? Don't get yourself into trouble." Luo Zhou was indeed worried about the development of such a situation. What if Xiao Tang was speechless in the end and he had a criminal record? It would be better to just let it go. It's so funny, it sounds good, but you just want to sacrifice the weakest one in exchange for harmony. After all, Xiao Tang is the one with the lowest status in your eyes as expected. Luo Zhou, you just look down on Xiao Tang. You're really worse than I thought. Damn it, isn't Luo Fei a policeman? Go, others, by the way, they are all Luo Zhou's friends. There are various connections between the families. They are all old friends. Friends are always more double standard. You can't expect them to stab their friends for strangers. Xiao Tang couldn't stop crying when he heard Luo Zhou's words. She knew that if this matter was just exposed, her reputation would be ruined, but who could help her? Could she still expect a miracle to come from the sky to help her? She didn't know anyone here. Suddenly, Ji Fei's figure helping so many female artists on the stage of domestic entertainment flashed in her mind. And the help just now. But, it's useless to ask teacher Ji for help. After all, there is really no way to deal with this matter. Ji Fei was very frustrated, because her identity also destined her to not be able to stand up and talk about the uncle-sister-in-law problem, without any evidence. She couldn't help but glance at Qin Xian twice, but she also felt that she couldn't ask him to expose her brother. And this matter can't be solved by exposing it. Qin Xian noticed Ji Fei's eyes and turned his head to look at him. What's wrong? Ji Fei pursed her lips, a little sulky. Suddenly Qin Xian curled his lips and smiled, reaching out to pinch Ji Fei's delicate chin. Ji Fei was stunned and looked at Qin Xian in disbelief. Flirting with me at this time? Qin Xian froze, but in the end he pinched Ji Fei's chin lovingly and helplessly, and turned her head to one side. There was a large screen on that side, which was originally playing promotional videos of various wines. Suddenly the video changed. A voice sounded. I hope you don't blame him. He didn't do it on purpose. It's all for a reason. In an instant, everyone looked at the big screen. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 217. In fact, recording the video was an accident. When Qin Xian took out his phone, he operated it with one hand. Just as he raised it, he heard Ji Fei praise him for his paparazzi skills, which made his hand tremble and he pressed it directly on the screen. When he put away the phone, he found that the video was automatically saved. Probably influenced by the atmosphere of the whole family eating melons, he didn't delete it at the time, thinking that if his family wanted to see it, he would send it to the group. Just now, he was just trying to see if he could record anything, but he didn't expect. So after the situation was out of control, Qin Xian sent the video to Qin Chao and asked Qin Chao to deal with it secretly. On the surface, for friendship and interests, it was not convenient for them to take action directly, but it was still possible to do things secretly. The big screen showed the camera shot from outside the door, the confrontation between the two, and the imaginative conversation. Perhaps it was too shocking, and no one thought of cutting off the video for a while. When Xianyi told Luo Zhou why he pretended to be poor and lied to Xiao Tang, Luo Zhou trembled all over. That was the thing he felt most guilty about, and the thing he dared not let Xiao Tang know. Even if he was self-righteous, he knew that if Xiao Tang knew that he was testing her and lying to her because of his ex-girlfriend, it would be almost. Luo Zhou suddenly felt like he was falling into an ice cave, as if he understood at this moment that Xiao Tang's so-called breakup was really not a temper tantrum. And there were some special factors in that story that made Luo Cheng realize something in an instant, and suddenly turned his head to look at Xianyi, who was almost staring at the side. Until the video mentioned the necklace, looking at Xianyi's artificial expression, even if the dialogue did not admit anything, as long as he looked at his expression and actions, anyone who was slightly smart could guess it. Oh my God, is that what I thought? I think everyone has similar ideas. Too exciting. It seems that the eldest brother's wife and the second brother were classmates. So the ex-girlfriend really refers to the eldest brother's wife. The eldest brother's wife abandoned the second brother and chose to marry the eldest brother for a better future. This is too much fun. The Luo family is quite generous. Two brothers have the same woman? Don't you think it's disgusting? And seeing that the eldest brother's wife is trying to break up the second brother and his girlfriend, it is obvious that she still has feelings for the second brother. Maybe she has always been in contact with him and is flirting with him behind the eldest brother's back. So the eldest brother is in trouble. Then what do you think of the so-called theft incident just now? It's just jealousy, trying to make trouble for others. Isn't that a typical want it all? I didn't expect that the wife praised by the Luo family would be such a person. Luo Cheng's face was completely black, and his eyes swept coldly over Luo Zhou and Xianyi. Luo Zhou just stared at Xiao Tang blankly, his face pale. Xiao Tang was looking at the video in shock. She didn't know who took it, but she felt it was a miracle. Xianyi seemed to have just come to her senses and quickly shouted, "Who took the video secretly? Turn it off, turn it off. Someone, turn it off quickly." Everyone thought that Xuanyi was guilty about the unhealthy uncle-sister-in-law relationship. As a result, someone exclaimed the next second, "It's really a frame-up." Xuanyi was struck by lightning in an instant. Everyone saw that after the conversation ended, when Xiaotang turned around, Xuanyi took off the necklace neatly and stuffed it into Xiaotang's bag beside her. Was the entire crime process filmed? The sinister intentions were clearly visible. Even if Xuanyi opened her mouth and looked like she wanted to quibble, she couldn't say anything. The whole person was completely shrouded in a collapsing world. She knew it was over. Looking at the big screen with bloodshot eyes, it seemed that she couldn't understand why it turned out like this. Xuanyi, Mrs. Luo stepped forward in disbelief and pulled Xuanyi. Mr. Luo's eyes popped out with anger. Whether it was the suspicious relationship between the uncle and the sister-in-law, or the frame-up in public, it was a huge scandal that would make the Luo family a laughingstock in the upper class. The elders of Xuanyi's family were naturally present. They actually knew that Xuanyi had talked to Luo Zhou before, but they thought that Luo Zhou was just a rich and idle young man, and had no value in their eyes, so they advised their daughter to break up, but they didn't expect that their daughter, who had always been cautious, would be exposed. So he hurried forward and said, "It's all a misunderstanding, it must be a misunderstanding." But such a pale explanation looked very ridiculous in the video that started to loop. The Luo couple's faces turned blue with anger, and they didn't know how to deal with the current situation. Seeing the faces of the elders of the Xian family, they were even more angry. Even when the other party came up and wanted to hold their hands to show closeness, they pushed them away suddenly. The second round of the video was about to end, and Xuanyi hadn't thought of what to do. She just felt numb on her face and the blood in her body was flowing backwards. She had never encountered such a shameful scene in her life. Now she wanted to faint and pretend that nothing had happened. But her body was out of control. She seemed to be stripped naked and paraded through the streets, watched and laughed at by people repeatedly. Those discussions were like countless needles piercing her body. The funny thing was that not long ago she was still enjoying these discussions to hurt Xiaotang. But now, she has replaced Xiaotang as the protagonist. The more I watch, the more despicable she is. It was a frame-up from beginning to end. It's a pity that she just acted so realistically. Really, she looks pretty, how can she be so vicious? She wants to frame an innocent makeup artist. If she succeeds, the makeup artist will be in trouble. If you ask me, the Luo family is blind to marry such a disaster. She cheated on the second brother's feelings and the eldest brother's marriage. The second brother is also stupid. He should have explained this matter to his family. How could his ex-girlfriend marry the eldest brother? I don't know what he is thinking. He only thinks that he is hurt and then pretends to be poor to cheat other girls. He is also mentally abnormal. If you ask me, the most innocent ones are the eldest brother and the makeup artist. They are unlucky to meet such a couple. No matter how experienced Luo Cheng is, he is a little unsteady at this moment. His wife and his brother. As for Xiaotang, who had already faced the truth, she felt relieved after the truth came out. She just wanted to laugh when she saw the group of people who almost pushed her to hell. It's really a matter of karma. And the classmates at this table were all stunned. The most stimulated one was Bai Zioxi. After all, she didn't know anything before. I didn't expect it was really Xuanyi. How did she become like this? Senting was also quite shocked. Others looked unhappy, after all, they were watching their friends suffer. It seems that I don't need to appear. Luo Fei choked, I just don't know if this video. Luo Fei couldn't help but look at Qin Xian and Ji Fei. In fact, there was no sign that they did it. But it is unlikely that anyone present would risk offending the Luo family just to help a small makeup artist prove her innocence, and the video was shot so coincidentally. It can only be said that such an outrageous and gratifying miracle has only been seen in some people. As a result, Luo Fei only saw Qin Xian with a smile on his lips, and Ji Fei stared at the video in amazement. But the next second, Ji Fei seemed to react, and suddenly turned his head to look at Qin Xian, who was about to say something. Ji Fei's face was full of surprise, and he rushed over to hug Qin Xian and suddenly kissed him on the cheek. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 218. Qin Xian, you are so great. Ji Fei's surprise echoed in the ears of the Qin family. But they all missed Ji Fei's impulse of being too surprised. Ji Fei was too happy. After the kiss, he immediately went to watch the fun. He didn't think about how much impact his behavior had on others. Qin Xian was stunned, as if all the sounds around him disappeared, and he could only hear his crazy heartbeat. The cheek was touched softly, but it felt like thousands of indescribable feelings flashed through him. His eyes lit up unconsciously, and then he trembled in panic. From the neck to the ears, and then to the cheeks, it was visibly red, and in the end he only dared to glance at Ji Fei shyly. And Luo Fei, who was sitting opposite, happened to see all this, and was simply dumbfounded, even dumber than when he just saw the video. This guy is his admired good brother, the person in charge of the Qin group. This is clearly a young, immature boy who came out of nowhere. Just a kiss on the cheek, is it that serious? Is it that serious? If it weren't for the wrong home court now, he really wanted to complain. Naturally, such a small episode could not attract the attention of others, and everyone's attention was attracted by this explosive melon. Xuanyi was so panicked that he almost mechanically wanted to refute. No, it's not like that. Suddenly a scream came over. Everyone was startled and looked over, but they never expected that the person who screamed was the cousin who jumped the most just now. In the eyes of everyone, the cousin must be an accomplice in this slander incident. She came here to deliberately help her cousin slander others, so why did she scream? As a result, someone in the crowd exclaimed. It was those sister groups. Xuanyi is not trying to match my cousin with Luo Zhou. But Luo Zhou is clearly with her. Oh my god, Xuanyi is trying to pit her cousin. It's because this cousin is stupid and easy to control. In this way, even if she does something with Luo Zhou, my cousin probably won't be able to tell. Look, my cousin is now awakened from a dream, and her reaction is like being greatly stimulated. Obviously, she didn't know before that her cousin actually had a relationship with her sweetheart. To squeeze out Luo Zhou's real sweetheart and let her cousin take the position, this intention is simply unimaginable. After the sisters talked about it, everyone also got to the point. No wonder my cousin looked like the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. Then there was a snap, and everyone was not surprised. They always felt that Xuanyi would be slapped today, but they didn't expect that the first person to slap her was her own family. Xuanyi's cheeks were swollen instantly after being hit by her cousin, and she looked at her cousin in shock and anger. But her cousin stared at her like a vicious dog. She was panicking inside, so she naturally didn't dare to quarrel with her cousin. She could only bite the bullet and say, "It's fake, it's all fake. There's something wrong with the angle of the video. Everyone misunderstood. I have no relationship with my second brother. We were just classmates in the past. The ex-girlfriend I mentioned, is someone else. I got that necklace, actually, it was just to help my cousin. After all, nothing was really admitted in the video, so it's okay to bite the bullet and deny it." Luo Zhou came back to his senses and received Xuanyi's eye hint. He suddenly thought, yes, as long as he denied it, Xiao Tang would not break up with him. Just like grabbing a life-saving straw, just when he was about to speak, he saw Xiao Tang turned his head and looked at him. His eyes were cold and thorough, as if he was laughing at him. At this point, did he still want to fool her like a fool? Luo Zhou was speechless all of a sudden. The Luo family also reacted. Although they were very angry, they could not let the embarrassing thing continue to develop at this time. They had to recover the losses. At least on the surface, everyone was getting along. They didn't care about what was spread privately. It was like this for all wealthy families. It was enough to maintain superficial harmony. So when the Xian family spoke for Xianyi, they were also ready to risk their face and call a deer a horse. But before they could save their dignity, they heard that cousin grabbing Xianyi's collar frantically and yelling, "So, the child you secretly aborted before marriage was Luozhou's, right? You and him both had children, so you are in poor health and have never been able to get pregnant. You actually want to match me and him, you are disgusting, you are disgusting." At this moment, Xianyi seemed to have lost his soul and looked at his cousin in disbelief. The Xian family's parents turned pale in an instant. This was obviously something that only they knew. I don't understand why the cousin knew this. Maybe some things can't be covered up. The Luo family's parents were also shocked. What? What did they hear? Before getting married, did Xianyi beat the child? Luozhou's child? Luozhou was also dumbfounded, looking at Xianyi in disbelief. He would never have thought that when this woman dumped him cruelly, she was pregnant. But his attention was no longer on the possible child, but at this moment, he felt that the stain on him could never be washed away. He seemed to realize that he might never catch Xiaotang again. He could only look at Xiaotang in panic, anxiously trying to explain something. "I don't know, I am the victim, I was deceived, I just had a relationship and was dumped, Xiaotang, Xiaotang, don't look at me like that." Luozhou, who was usually so arrogant, was so humble that his eyes turned red and tears were about to come out. At this moment, Luo Chengcheng was the one who could not stand the most. He almost staggered and breathed quickly. He was supported by his subordinates who followed him. After 3 years of marriage, he still had no children. His family urged him to go to the hospital for examination several times. He never expected that. Suddenly, Luo Cheng's face changed several times, as if he thought of something, and his eyes were about to burst. Originally, I knew that the two might have been dating, but I didn't feel so disgusted. At this moment, not only Luo Cheng, but even Luo's parents were disgusted. Other people who were eating melons were also dumbfounded. Even if the rich families were for the sake of interests, there were many weirdos, but he was the first one who was so bold as to play with a rich family and deceive two brothers. At this moment, such explosive things were exposed by relatives, let alone whitewashing, there was no need at all. Xianyi was completely finished. "Oh my God, I actually ignored such a big melon, terrible, really terrible. This can't be blamed on Jifei. Unless you check when you speculate on this possibility, or when you check other things, it will be displayed only if there is a strong correlation. Otherwise, it may not be displayed by the system." At this moment, Jifei simply ate it carefully. "Oh my God, Xianyi is also a ruthless person. After getting pregnant, she actually tried to design Luo Cheng to be a scapegoat. After all, they are brothers, and whose children are the same as a result." Luo Cheng restrained himself and would not do anything to her before marriage, so the time was missed and she had to abort. "Ah, what did I see? This is really a sinister human heart, my 3 views are disgusted." The Qin family didn't expect that there was such a design behind this big melon. Eating a melon is also thundering, and I look at Luo Cheng with more sympathy. But Luo Cheng's expression at this time seemed. Everyone thought that the Luo family or at least Luo Cheng would slap Xianyi, but Luo Cheng didn't. He said coldly to the Xian family, "Please take your daughter away from here. Later, I will find her, and explain it clearly." This was said almost with gritted teeth. It was also restrained to the extreme. Cultivation saved Xianyi's life. Xianyi was rescued from the crazy cousin by Xian's parents. She stared blankly at the man she once relied on. "Husband, listen to me, actually I Xuanyi, what did you want to do when you were so enthusiastic about me before we got married? If you don't want me to say it now, just shut up and go back quietly. It seems that he has been unable to bear it. Luo Cheng doesn't want to listen to Xuanyi's words anymore. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 219. For a married woman, it is quite humiliating to be asked by her husband to take her father-in-law and mother-in-law home. Xuanyi almost instinctively struggled to death, but she didn't want to hear such a sentence. She looked at Luo Cheng in horror. She didn't expect that her little calculation back then would be guessed. Indeed, Luo Cheng is not as easy to deceive as Luo Zhou. Xuanyi's face was pale and blue, uglier than the face of a person who had died for a few days. Apart from the crazy tears, she really couldn't say a word, and even had some difficulty breathing. Finally, her eyes rolled back and she fainted. This fainting naturally made the scene chaotic. Oh my God, is it real or fake? Really fainting? Well, some people are really funny. They can't bear the backlash of their own evil deeds, so how can they hurt others so comfortably? The Qin family shook their heads and could only say that they deserved it. Xian's parents stepped forward to support their daughter, exclaimed, turned around and wanted to ask for help from their son-in-law, but only saw Luo Cheng's completely indifferent look, and knew that there was no hope at all. Luo's parents haven't recovered from the truth just now. They are exhausted and don't want to save the dignity of the rich family, let alone deal with this daughter-in-law who makes them lose face. Luo Zhou has no spare energy to care about others. He is already flustered and confused. Xian's parents finally left Luo's house with Xuanyi in disgrace. All the spectators know that this time, the marriage is over. The wine tasting party naturally did not continue. Luo Cheng managed to arrange the guests to leave properly, and gave each person a bottle of good wine as a gift to calm down. Although the Luo family lost face enough this time, everyone was still very satisfied with Luo Cheng's performance. With such an air, even if the Luo family becomes a clown in everyone's eyes this time, it will not affect much. When the Qin family was about to leave, Luo Cheng offered wine and said, "Can I ask why?" The Qin family was embarrassed. Although others didn't know, Luo Cheng couldn't be unaware. A casual investigation would know that the video was from their hands. Just as Qin Xian was about to speak, he heard Ji Fei say, "It's me. I can't stand Xuanyi bullying people. Xiao Tang and I are friends. And someone has to do evil first for things to develop to this point." The Qin family naturally protects Ji Fei. If Luo Cheng makes trouble, they will not hesitate to cut off contact in the future. They are so willful. Qin Xian looked sideways at Ji Fei, who stood in front of him, as if to protect him and take responsibility for anything. He couldn't help but curl his lips. Luo Cheng and Qin Xian mostly socialized in the business world. It was the first time he saw Qin Xian like this. Looking at the lip prints that were faintly visible on his cheek, Luo Cheng couldn't help but reveal a trace of envy in his eyes. He thought he knew the answer. Originally, I was really curious to ask. Which wealthy family is so ruthless? If you expose such things in person, you will usually pretend to turn a blind eye in order not to offend people. The interests of small people are sacrificed casually. But they were unnecessary. They were really a very interesting family, and doing business with such people, you can always put your heart at ease. Seeing Ji Fei, who was a little nervous, Luo Cheng smiled and said, "The judge of internal entertainment is really amazing." "Huh, are you mocking me? But he looks okay." Luo Cheng shook hands with Qin Xian and went to see off other guests. As the family walked out, they saw Qin Xian's friends. It seemed that Luo Fei was talking about the wedding in the future, and waited for Qin Xian to say a few words. As a result, just after they passed by, they heard a loud slap from the lawn not far away. Before everyone looked over, the Qin family heard Ji-Fei's excited voice. "Great, I thought I wouldn't see the scene of chasing his wife to the crematorium. Alas, no, this is already burned to ashes. The previous scene was too chaotic, and I don't know when Xiao Tang disappeared." At this moment, he should be about to leave, but was stopped by Luo Zhou. With a slap, Luo Zhou's face was hit sideways. This was the first time that such a rebellious young master was hit like this. He was completely stunned. He turned his head and looked at Xiao Tang in disbelief. "You hit me." Xiao Tang shook his hand and said coldly, "You deserve it." Xiao Tang's attitude towards Luo Zhou seemed to change suddenly, which made Luo Zhou unbearable. Is this still the woman who was cautious and full of expectations for his love? Xiao Tang, who didn't want to face him, made Luo Zhou angry for a moment. After all, he has always been the superior in their relationship, but when he saw Xiao Tang turning around to leave, he still panicked for a moment and begged humbly. "Is it until you lose it that you know how to have it? Isn't it cheap?" Ji-Fei complained, and the Qin family also cursed in their hearts. Others saw Luo Zhou like this and were full of disgust. Even a man like Qi Li couldn't stand it. However, Luo Zhou was probably really afraid of losing Xiao Tang, so even if he knew that he was being watched by people he knew, he couldn't care about such a shameful scene. He stopped Xiao Tang. "Are you really going to break up with me?" Xiao Tang sneered and didn't bother to answer. "No, it's impossible. You love me so much, you should have seen it. I love you, I want to marry you. What I did before, I didn't do it well, I just feared that I would be deceived again after giving my feelings. I know I was wrong. But you can't blame me for everything. It's your love that spoiled me and made me unscrupulous. I thought that no matter what I did, you would never leave me. You can't just abandon me after I get used to it. Can't I make up for the 2 years of deception with my whole life? Xiao Tang, I really love you. Please, give me another chance." "Okay." Luo Zhou actually shed tears while speaking. The lines are not good enough, the words are too cliched. Why do you still have to blame the victim? You do bad things because the other person is too good. What kind of logic is this?" But this crying, Xiao Tang will not be moved by him. If Ji-Fei hadn't complained, the Qin family would have sighed like everyone else after listening to Luo Zhou's confession. But it just felt ridiculous to hear this. But what would Xiao Tang think when he heard these words? After all, it can be seen that Luo Zhou likes Xiao Tang. But Xiao Tang was in a daze, not knowing what he was thinking. Luo Zhou thought there was a chance, and immediately said, "As for that person, it's a thing of the past. I was just venting my anger at most. I don't have any feelings for her anymore. She's my sister-in-law. There's no way I can have any lingering feelings with her. Everything is just her wishful thinking." Alas, you scumbag, your words are quite directional. Isn't venting anger just caring? You didn't do anything substantial, but there were a lot of tugs inside. I haven't forgotten the eye tugs at the class reunion. Can we start over? If you want, I can immediately convince my family to get engaged to you. Luo Zhou said as he reached out to pull Xiao Tang. As a result, Xiao Tang avoided it directly, and when he raised his eyes, only ruthlessness remained. "I'll send you the bill later." Luo Zhou was stunned. What? The people who were watching the show were also stunned, and they didn't react for a while. "I've been raising you for 2 years, and I'll calculate the money I spent on you and the accounts I transferred. I'll send you the bill later. Please pay it back within 3 days." After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 220. One sentence struck like thunder. For more than 2 years, except for the last time he borrowed money, Xiao Tang had never asked Luo Zhou for money. At this time, Luo Zhou was stunned. Well done. That's how it should be. The other melon eaters were still confused. Ji Fei had already put fireworks in his heart. After all, Xiao Tang was originally a serious lovehead in Ji Fei's eyes. Unexpectedly, once he woke up, he suddenly knew how to protect his own interests. You want money from me, Luo Zhou said in shock. Hey, be careful what you say, I'm not asking for money, I'm asking you to pay back the money. Why can't I ask you for money? It was you who defrauded me, wasn't it? According to morality and law, I can ask for it back. I don't bother to take advantage of you and covet your money, but you can't even think of taking advantage of it. I'm cheap. I don't want any more, I just want my share, Xiao Tang said calmly. Why don't you ask for more? I want him to compensate for mental damages and so on, you deserve it. Ji Fei was so excited that she almost jumped out. Qin Xian patted Ji Fei's back funny and silently helped her calm down. Ji Fei didn't even notice anything strange, as if she had gotten used to Qin Xian's behavior without knowing it. Like a touch. Qin Xian could understand Xiao Tang's approach. She did not ask for more compensation, as long as she had her own share, which was her final respect for her efforts in that false relationship. Xiao Tang's words naturally made Luo Zhou look ugly. After all, Xuanhuan had distorted his view of love, so he felt that a poor girl who was willing to spend money for him must really love him. So he enjoys this very much, and now Xiao Tang wants to ask for everything back, as if he is completely withdrawing his original love and denying their relationship. Those are not important at all. I can give you more. All my property will be shared with you. As long as we go back to the past, you don't have to work hard as a makeup artist. You just need to be my wife at home. I will pamper you and love you to support you. Luo Zhou, even if the scam is exposed, you still look down on me from a high position. Xiao Tang suddenly realized, I suddenly remembered that in the past 2 years, when I worked hard as a makeup artist's assistant, I always talked to you complaining about not having good clients. If you secretly use your identity and resources to arrange a client for me, I will not work so hard to support you. Obviously there are so many people around you who know that you are cheating me. Is it difficult to play a scene with you? Is it difficult to let me relax? You want to test me, but you only enjoy my efforts, and you are like a bystander from beginning to end, and you never think of taking advantage of me. Your identity helps a little bit, haha, Luo Zhou, you lied, you don't love me at all, not at all. Xiao Tang's sentiments were very abrupt, as if they were just a small detail. But it makes people feel sad inexplicably. Yes, Xiao Tang has always been a joke in the past 2 years. It is wrong to pretend to be poor in the test, but during this period, if Luo Zhou can use his power to arrange some lucky things to help Xiao Tang when Xiao Tang encounters difficulties, it can also prove that he loves Xiao Tang and feels sorry for Xiao Tang. It's just that I'm still a little embarrassed and uneasy about being bitten by a snake when it comes to relationships. I believe that given Xiao Tang's love-minded personality, she would definitely forgive Luo Zhou if he knew the truth in this situation, and no matter how sincerely he apologized. But Luo Zhou did nothing. He allowed hardships to hit Xiao Tang, and even became one of the hardships. Is this really love? Isn't it the venting of my own twisted psychology and morbid state? Generally speaking, no one can make excuses for the so-called pretending to be poor to test true love. Luo Zhou probably realized it, his face gradually faded, and he looked at Xiao Tang with trembling lips. Xiao Tang smiled contemptuously and said, so what you just said about pampering me, loving me, raising me, and letting me not be a makeup artist but just your wife is nothing more than a gift from the superior. I don't need your reward. Those bills are not insignificant. Those things are very important to me. I just hope that we will be completely clear from now on, never see each other again, and don't pester me. As if his deepest thoughts that he had not thought of were being cut open, Luo Zhou's eyes were dull. God, after the love brain is cured, will it directly turn into a sober brain? At this moment, Xiao Tang, you are my sister. Don't worry, Miss Tang. If my stupid brother cannot return your finances, I will be responsible for returning them. Luo Cheng's voice suddenly sounded. Everyone looked back and saw that Luo Cheng had finished seeing off the other guests and was walking over. He nodded apologetically to Xiao Tang, I'm sorry, both my brother and my wife have caused you trouble and harm. Our Luo family will also compensate you in this regard. Xiao Tang was stunned, and just as he was about to say something, Luo Cheng interrupted, Miss Tang, don't worry, you also want to make a clean break with Luo Yi, so of course you have to make a clean break with all grudges. Our Luo family has never owed anything others, and I won't let him pester you again, so you can rest assured. At this time, Xiao Tang didn't know what to say. Brother. Luo Zhou suddenly came to his senses. It seemed that he still wanted to save him and did not want his elder brother to destroy him. However, Luo Cheng had already arrived in front of him and slapped him directly. Luo Zhou was beaten and fell to the grass. Superior. Phew, it's symmetrical, I'm satisfied. The Qin family almost laughed out loud in this serious occasion. Yes, Luo Zhou really couldn't escape the slap. Luo Zhou was stunned for a while, and he was so aggrieved, brother, I really didn't have anything to do with my sister-in-law. I don't know about the things she hid in the past, I didn't. He also wanted to say that he had never cuckolded his eldest brother. But Luo Cheng almost gritted his teeth and said, why didn't you say it? Why didn't you say it in the first place? Luo Zhou was stunned, he didn't know that even when Xuanyi chose his eldest brother so decisively, he wanted to see if Xuanyi could really separate his body and mind, and if he could really be happy with his eldest brother. He just wanted to see Xuanyi regret, so he didn't say anything. He seemed to suddenly react, because he didn't say how much harm he had caused to his eldest brother and this family. I could only lower my head cowardly and say sorry. But he still couldn't help but raise his eyes and look at Xiao Tang, obviously not giving up so easily. Luo Cheng seemed to just vent his anger and teach this stupid brother a lesson. Now that things have happened, it's natural that it's hard for others to stay and watch the show. Ji Fei was eager to give Xiao Tang a ride. In the car, Qin Rong, who was most familiar with Xiao Tang, couldn't help but said, Sister Xiao Tang, you should have asked Luo Zhou for more compensation just now. How could you let that scumbag go so easily? How could you not teach him a lesson? That's right, the money spent on raising him before was earning interest in the bank, so raising him was in vain, Ji Fei complained. Xiao Tang was still very reserved when facing their family. Mr. Luo said. That's compensation for them framing you and damaging your reputation. It's different from compensation for a scumbag, Ji Fei said. When Xiao Tang saw them defending themselves so much, he couldn't help but laugh and said, the interest is for nothing, I just slept with a high-quality handsome guy, I took advantage. After saying this, I realized that the elders were also there, and I felt extremely embarrassed. It was also because I was nervous that my head twitched as I said this. In fact, I just don't want to admit that I wasted so much love, so I can only say this. In the end, Ji Fei patted her on the shoulder and said, yes, such a mental state is very beautiful. When you first fell in love with a useless person like him, it was just because of his face. Xiao Tang was embarrassed, okay, that's true. Luo Zhou's face was speechless. But everyone couldn't help but laugh when they remembered how Luo Zhou's cheeks were swollen before leaving. I just hope everything can end here. Xiao Tang probably remembered Luo Zhou's shameless and unwilling shouting before leaving at the end, as if he would continue to be entangled endlessly. It will be over, Ji Fei said. Xiao Tang just thought Ji Fei was comforting him, but he didn't want what Ji Fei said to be true. It's okay if it doesn't end, because brother Lugo is going to start cleaning up the garbage. Lugo Joe and Xuanyi can't escape. Hey, let me see. The Qin family also became curious about how Lugo Cheng would handle it. In the Lugo family, Lugo Cheng did not fight Lugo Joe again, but Mr. Lugo just hit him with a stick. Finally, when my father had had enough beatings, my mother had had enough crying. Lugo Cheng announced the arrangements for Xuanyi and Lugo Joe.